Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something that has confused men for centuries: understanding women's emotions. You're not alone if you've ever felt like you're walking through an emotional minefield, unsure how to respond or constantly misinterpreting what she means. But what if I told you that an ancient philosophy is key to navigating these emotional complexities with confidence and clarity? That's right, Stoicism isn't just about enduring hardships or suppressing emotions. It's a powerful mindset that can help you master emotional control, improve communication, and build stronger relationships with the women in your life. In this video, we're breaking down the core Stoic principles that will help you understand women's emotions without getting overwhelmed, communicate with wisdom instead of reacting impulsively, and cultivate a relationship dynamic built on respect, stability, and trust. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end, because the last principle we cover is the ultimate game changer in mastering emotional intelligence and creating more profound, more fulfilling relationships. So, if you're ready to level your mindset and take your relationships to a new level, let's get started. 1. Understanding the power of Stoic principles in relationships. A man who seeks to understand women through the lens of Stoicism does not react to emotions with frustration or confusion, but instead with clarity and composure. He knows that the essence of a strong relationship lies not in controlling his partner's emotions, but in mastering his own. Emotions, whether his or hers, are not obstacles but opportunities to practice patience, wisdom, and resilience. The Stoics understood that true strength is not about force but about discipline, and in relationships this means being steady in the face of emotional storms rather than being swept away by them. This approach's core is the idea that virtue is the highest good. A man who embraces Stoicism prioritizes wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice in all aspects of life, including his relationships. He does not act out of insecurity or impulse or allow fleeting emotions to dictate his decisions. Instead, he approaches his interactions with women from a place of integrity and self. When she is upset, he does not dismiss her feelings or rush to solve them. He listens, acknowledges, and responds with steadiness. His patience is not passive, but intentional, an act of strength rather than indifference. Understanding the distinction between control and acceptance is crucial. Like the changing tides, a woman's emotions are not his to command. What he can control, however, is his response. If she is anxious, he does not become anxious in return. If she is frustrated, he does not meet frustration with more frustration. Instead, he remains composed, recognizing that his role is not to fix but to provide stability. A Stoic man accepts that emotions are part of human nature, neither good nor bad in themselves, but simply reflections of inner experiences. He does not take them personally or allow them to disrupt his peace. To perceive reality objectively is a rare but invaluable skill. Many men enter relationships burdened with expectations, assumptions, and unchecked biases. They believe women should think and react as they do, and when reality does not align with these expectations, they grow resentful. A Stoic man, however, sees things as they are. He does not impose his logic onto emotions that do not operate within pure logic. He does not label a woman's feelings irrational simply because they do not follow a linear path. Instead, he seeks to understand them as they are, without judgment or frustration. He recognizes that emotions are signals, not obstacles. By doing so, he engages with them from a place of clarity rather than resistance. The most significant advantage of the Stoic mindset in relationships is the ability to remain free from emotional turmoil. Many men allow themselves to be ruled by the ups and downs of their partner's moods, reacting impulsively and losing their center. A Stoic man, however, understands that external events, including another person's emotions, are neutral. It is only his interpretation of them that gives them power. By mastering his mind, he ensures that no emotional storm, no outburst, and no fleeting conflict can shake his foundation. This does not mean he is indifferent or cold, but rather that he approaches relationships with a level of emotional stability that fosters trust and security. A woman does not need a perfect man, nor one unshaken by all things, but she needs a consistent man. She needs to know that he will not crumble under pressure and will not lose himself in anger or frustration when challenges arise. She does not need him to solve all her problems, but she does need to feel that he is a source of steadiness in her life. This separates a Stoic man from the rest. He is not easily moved, not because he does not feel, but because he has trained himself to respond with reason rather than impulse. The modern world teaches men to chase after validation, to react emotionally to every perceived slight, and to prove their worth through external means. But the Stoic man knows true confidence is found in mastery over the self. He does not argue to win, but to understand. He does not seek control over his partner, but over his actions. And because of this, he builds relationships that are not only passionate, but enduring. He becomes a man who is respected, trusted, and ultimately loved, not because he demands it, but because he embodies it. 2. Navigating the emotional landscape with strength and clarity. A man who understands the nature of emotions, both his own and those of the woman in his life, gains an advantage not through control, but mastery of his mind. Women experience emotions in waves, sometimes unpredictable and intense. But this is not a flaw or a weakness, it is simply the nature of human feeling. A man's role is not to resist or suppress these emotions, but to engage with them from a place of stability. Strength in relationships is not measured by force, but by presence, by the ability to remain composed when emotions rise and fall like the tide. Stoicism does not demand emotional suppression, it calls for recognition without subjugation. A man does not need to harden himself against a woman's emotions, nor should he dismiss them as irrelevant. Instead, he observes them patiently, understanding they are temporary states, not defining truths. When she is frustrated, upset, or overwhelmed, his task is not to react impulsively but to acknowledge her feelings without letting them dictate his mind. He can say, "I hear you. I understand why this matters to you," or "I see that this is important to you," without letting those emotions pull him into unnecessary conflict. There is a difference between validation and absorption. A woman does not want a man who mirrors her every emotion, who becomes anxious when she is anxious, or angry when she is angry. She seeks someone who can balance and acknowledge her feelings without becoming consumed. If she is upset, it is not his role to take on that distress as his own. Instead, he recognizes it and respects it, but remains steady. This is the difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is impulse, response is intention. When a man responds with measured words and calm presence, he de-escalates rather than inflames, creating an environment where trust and security grow. Understanding emotions does not require agreement. A woman may feel something intensely, but that does not mean her emotions align with objective truth. A Stoic man does not argue against feelings with logic. He does not tell her she is wrong to feel what she feels. Instead, he acknowledges the reality of her emotions while maintaining his perspective. He understands that emotions are deeply personal experiences, shaped by history, mood, and context. He does not dismiss them, but does not let them override reason. He listens, offers perspective when appropriate, and remains unshaken by any emotional turbulence. Perhaps most importantly, he embraces the impermanence of emotions. Just as the seasons change, so too do feelings. A woman's frustration today does not mean frustration forever. A moment of sadness does not define an entire relationship. A Stoic man does not make drastic decisions based on fleeting emotions, his or hers. He understands that patience reveals the truth and that time allows clarity to emerge. By refusing to act impulsively in response to temporary emotions, he builds a foundation of stability and trust. A man who lives by these principles creates a relationship that is not ruled by chaos but guided by strength. He does not seek to control a woman's emotions or fear them. Instead, he meets them with unwavering composure, offering not resistance but reassurance. He becomes a presence of stability in her life, not because he is indifferent, but because he is unshakable. And in that steadiness she finds something rare, a man who does not bend to the storm, but stands firm in the midst of it. 3. Communicating effectively with women through composure and clarity. A man who masters communication in relationships is a man who understands that words are not just sounds, but instruments of connection. The way he speaks, listens, and responds shapes the depth of emotional intimacy he builds with a woman. Miscommunication often arises not from a lack of words, but from a failure to convey thoughts with precision, to listen with genuine intent, and to separate emotional reaction from logical response. A man who applies discipline to his communication will find that his interactions with women become not battles of misunderstanding, but bridges to deeper connection. Words should be used with clarity and purpose. A woman does not need poetic embellishments or overcomplicated explanations. She needs honesty, consistency, and directness. A man who speaks with confidence and simplicity removes confusion from the conversation. Instead of amplifying emotional tension with unnecessary exaggeration, he presents facts, acknowledges feelings, and steers conversations toward understanding rather than drama. This does not mean speaking coldly or robotically. It means choosing words carefully, ensuring they serve the purpose of clarity rather than emotional escalation. Listening is an art, not just a passive activity. Too often, men listen with the intent to respond rather than with the intent to understand. When a woman speaks, she does not always seek immediate solutions. Sometimes, she simply needs to be heard. A man who listens fully, without formulating his reply while she is still speaking, creates a space where she feels valued. He does not interrupt, dismiss, or rush to conclusions. Instead, he listens patiently, allowing her to express herself before offering his thoughts. This form of active listening deepens trust and strengthens the bond between them. A disciplined mind remains steady in the face of emotional intensity. Women are expressive creatures. Emotions can sometimes flood a conversation with tension. A weak man reacts impulsively, allowing his emotions to rise in response to hers, leading to unnecessary arguments and misunderstandings. A strong man, however, recognizes that he controls his reactions. He remains calm, not as a form of detachment, but as a foundation of stability. He does not match emotion with emotion. He meets it with understanding. If she raises her voice, he does not increase his. If she speaks with frustration, he responds with patience. In doing so, he diffuses conflict before it escalates. Beyond the surface emotions, there is always a more profound concern. Women, like men, often communicate their feelings indirectly. When she expresses frustration about something small, it may not be about that issue. It may reflect something more profound, an unmet need, an unspoken insecurity. A perceptive man does not react to the surface-level complaint, but instead seeks to understand its root. He asks himself, what is she truly trying to communicate? He does not dismiss her words, but looks beyond them to see the heart of the matter. The power of thoughtful questioning transforms conversations. Instead of making assumptions, a wise man asks questions, encouraging deeper discussion. When she expresses frustration, he does not shut her down or argue. He asks, what do you feel would help in this situation? When she seems upset but does not explain why, he does not demand answers. He calmly asks, can you help me understand what's on your mind? This approach shifts conversations from confrontation to exploration, allowing both individuals to engage in meaningful dialogue rather than emotional reactions. Effective communication is not about controlling the conversation, but guiding it toward clarity, understanding, and connection. A man who applies discipline in his speech, patience in his listening, and wisdom in his responses will find that his relationships flourish. Women do not seek men who always have the perfect words. They seek men who are present, listen, and respond with thoughtfulness rather than impulse. By mastering this approach, a man cultivates relationships built not on fleeting emotions, but on the steady foundation of mutual respect and understanding. 4. Building stronger relationships through stability and understanding. A relationship is not a fleeting moment of passion or a collection of pleasant experiences strung together. It is a dynamic, evolving connection between two individuals who continuously learn and adapt to each other. At the core of every strong relationship is emotional stability. A woman may be drawn to a man for many reasons: his confidence, ambition, and sense of humor. But what keeps her invested is the deep-rooted sense of security she feels when she is with him. That security is not just about material provisions or external achievements, but rather his emotional steadiness and ability to navigate life's inevitable challenges with wisdom and composure. Women experience emotions in a profoundly intricate way, often influenced by internal and external factors. A man who understands this does not view emotional fluctuations as irrational or problematic, but as a natural aspect of human existence. Instead of reacting defensively or dismissively, he approaches these emotional waves with patience and understanding. A woman does not need a man to solve all her problems or dictate how she should feel. What she truly desires is to be heard, acknowledged, and supported without judgment. When a man offers that kind of presence, he creates an environment where she feels safe being authentic. The true strength in a relationship is not about dominance or control, but about the ability to remain emotionally grounded. A man who allows himself to be easily swayed by emotions, whether his own or his partner's, will find himself constantly at the mercy of external circumstances. One moment, he may feel deeply connected and affectionate. The next, he may feel frustrated or detached. This instability creates uncertainty, which erodes trust over time. On the other hand, a man who remains steady, who does not react impulsively but instead chooses his responses carefully, becomes a source of reassurance. This does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending to be unaffected, but instead maintaining self-awareness and self-control that prevents unnecessary conflict or emotional volatility. Patience is one of the most potent tools a man can develop in relationships. Women often process emotions through expression, meaning that they may vocalize frustrations, doubts, or fears before fully understanding them themselves. A man who lacks patience may find this overwhelming or even frustrating, leading him to withdraw or react defensively. But a man who understands the transient nature of emotions does not take these moments personally. He listens with the intention of understanding rather than simply responding. He does not rush to offer solutions unless they are genuinely needed. Often, what a woman desires most is not a fix, but a feeling of connection. The ability to sit with discomfort, to allow emotions to rise and fall without attempting to control them, is a sign of immense emotional maturity. Respecting emotional differences is another key factor in building a resilient relationship. Men and women do not process feelings in the same way. While men often seek logical explanations and direct solutions, women navigate their emotions through experience and connection. A man who expects his partner to react exactly as he would, who demands rationality in moments of deep emotion, will find himself repeatedly disappointed. Instead of resisting these differences, a wise man embraces them. He does not belittle or dismiss her feelings simply because they do not align with his thinking. Instead, he recognizes that her perspective, though different, is equally valid. By doing so, he creates a space where she feels valued and understood, deepening their trust. Emotional stability is one of a man's most attractive qualities in a relationship. A woman who knows that her partner is unwavering in his character, that he will not crumble under pressure or lash out in moments of frustration, feels a deep sense of trust and security. This allows love to grow, not just in moments of happiness, but also through life's inevitable hardships. A man who reacts impulsively to minor conflicts and allows his emotions to dictate his behavior creates instability. But a man who remains composed, who approaches challenges with a level-headed mindset, fosters an environment where both partners can thrive. Conflict is inevitable, but how it is handled determines whether a relationship grows stronger or begins to fracture. Many men make the mistake of engaging in emotional arguments, allowing themselves to be pulled into reactive, heated exchanges that accomplish nothing. However, a man who understands the value of self-restraint does not allow himself to be provoked into unnecessary conflict. He approaches disagreements with curiosity rather than defensiveness, seeking to understand his partner's concerns rather than immediately proving himself right. Instead of escalating tension, he diffuses it by remaining calm and rational. This does not mean avoiding conflict altogether, but addressing it in a way that leads to resolution rather than resentment. A relationship built on mutual respect, patience, and emotional stability can withstand the tests of time. Women do not seek perfection in a partner, they seek consistency. They seek a dependable man who does not waver in his character when faced with challenges. A man who can navigate emotions with wisdom and understands the natural fluctuations of feelings without being ruled by them becomes anchor in his relationship. By embodying these qualities, he strengthens his bond with his partner and cultivates a more profound sense of fulfillment within himself. 5. Beyond the stereotypes, the true nature of Stoicism in relationships. Stoicism has long been misunderstood, especially in the context of relationships. Many believe it promotes emotional detachment, coldness, or passive acceptance of whatever happens. To the untrained eye, a Stoic man may seem like an unfeeling statue, unmoved by love, passion, or pain. But this perception could not be further from the truth. Stoicism is not about rejecting emotions. It is about mastering them. It does not discourage love. It refines it into something deep and enduring. It does not make a man indifferent. It gives him the wisdom to navigate relationships with strength, clarity, and resilience. To truly understand how Stoicism shapes relationships, one must first clear away the myths surrounding it. Many assume that a Stoic man is emotionally absent, incapable of connecting on a deep level. Others believe that he is passive, merely accepting whatever happens without resistance. Some believe that Stoicism is inherently incompatible with love, and that a man who follows this philosophy will struggle to build meaningful connections. However, these assumptions are based on a misunderstanding of what Stoicism teaches. The first and most common misconception is that Stoicism is emotionless. Some believe that Stoicism means suppressing all feelings and acting as though emotions are weaknesses that must be eradicated. But this idea contradicts the very foundation of Stoic thought. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers, acknowledged emotions freely in his Meditations, reflecting on love, loss, and human nature with depth and sincerity. Stoicism does not demand emotional suppression, it demands emotional mastery. It teaches that emotions should not be blindly followed but consciously understood. A Stoic man does not deny his feelings, he simply refuses to be ruled by them. He can experience love without losing himself, passion without recklessness, and disappointment without despair. This level of control does not make a man unfeeling. It makes him more potent, more intentional, and more capable of sustaining deep, meaningful relationships. Another misconception is that Stoics are cold and detached. Many assume that a man who embraces Stoicism will remain distant, unwilling to engage in emotional conversations or expressions of affection. In reality, Stoicism fosters deep empathy. It teaches a man to listen attentively, to understand the emotions of others, and to provide support without being consumed by external turmoil. A woman does not need a partner who mirrors her every emotional fluctuation. She needs one who remains steady in uncertainty, can listen without judgment, and can respond with wisdom rather than impulse. A Stoic man does not shut himself off from emotional connection. He ensures that his emotions serve his relationship rather than destabilize it. Another false belief is that Stoicism promotes passivity, that a Stoic man simply accepts whatever happens to him without taking action. However, Stoicism is not about surrendering to fate, but engaging with life most effectively. A Stoic man takes responsibility for his actions, choices, and relationships. He does not allow himself to be a victim of circumstance. He does not retreat into silence if a conflict arises. He addresses it with reason and patience. If a relationship faces challenges, he does not passively endure. He seeks solutions and growth. A Stoic man does not let emotions dictate his responses, but does not ignore the need for action when required. The greatest misconception is that Stoicism is incompatible with love. Many assume that a man who follows Stoic principles cannot deeply connect with a partner and will remain emotionally distant, unwilling to invest in meaningful relationships. However, true Stoicism enhances love rather than diminishes it. A man who practices Stoic principles becomes a source of stability in his partner's life. He does not create unnecessary drama, he does not react impulsively to minor disagreements, and he does not allow temporary emotions to dictate long-term decisions. Instead, he builds relationships on trust, respect, and emotional resilience. A woman feels secure with a man who does not waver in his character and does not let minor frustrations erode the foundation of their bond. She knows that his love is not based on fleeting emotions, but on deep commitment and unwavering strength. Stoicism offers some of the most valuable lessons for sustaining a strong and fulfilling relationship. One of the core tenets of Stoicism is amor fati, the love of fate. This principle teaches acceptance of life as it is, not as one wishes it to be. This means embracing one's partner fully, with all their strengths and flaws. It means loving the idealized version of a person and the real person standing before you. Many relationships fail because people cling to unrealistic expectations, wanting their partner always to meet their needs perfectly. A Stoic man, however, understands that love is not about controlling or changing someone, but about appreciating them as they are and growing together. Another crucial Stoic lesson is distinguishing between what is within control and what is not. A man cannot control how his partner feels, how she reacts, or how life unfolds around them, but he can control how he responds, communicates, and chooses to show up in the relationship. Instead of trying to fix or change his partner's emotions, he provides steady support. Instead of letting frustration dictate his words, he speaks with patience and wisdom. Instead of fearing loss or disappointment, he embraces the present moment, knowing that true love is not about guarantees, but showing up thoroughly each day. Finally, Stoicism teaches that external events do not dictate inner peace. Only one's perception does. Relationships, no matter how strong, will face challenges. Disagreements will arise. Emotions will fluctuate. However, a Stoic man does not allow these external events to shake his foundation. He remains calm in the storm, steady in the face of uncertainty, and in doing so he offers his partner something invaluable, a safe harbor, a place of security in an unpredictable world. Stoicism does not diminish love, it strengthens it. It does not create distance, it builds trust. It does not suppress emotion, it refines it into something deeper, more intentional, and more enduring. In a world where relationships often fall apart due to impulsive reactions and emotional volatility, Stoicism offers a path to something greater. This love is not swayed by fleeting feelings, but grounded in wisdom, patience, and unwavering commitment. Stoic philosophy offers a robust framework for understanding women on a deeper level, fostering more meaningful relationships built on emotional intelligence, patience, and mutual respect. At its core, Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions or detaching from human experiences, but about mastering one's responses, engaging with others from a place of clarity and wisdom, and focusing on what is within our control. By applying these principles, men can navigate the complexities of women's emotions with composure, ensuring that interactions are not dictated by impulse or frustration, but by thoughtful understanding and steady presence. Women experience emotions in dynamic and sometimes unpredictable ways, and rather than resisting or attempting to control these emotions, a Stoic man acknowledges them without being swept away. He listens attentively, not to argue or impose his perspective, but to understand and support. Instead of reacting impulsively to emotional expressions, he responds with measured thoughtfulness, recognizing that emotions like waves rise and fall naturally. He does not view emotional fluctuations as threats or burdens, but as an essential part of human nature, deserving of respect and patience. Effective communication is key to any strong relationship, and Stoicism refines this skill by encouraging clarity, presence, and self-discipline. A Stoic man does not engage in unnecessary emotional escalation. He listens deeply, responds precisely, and focuses on the core message behind words, rather than becoming lost in momentary intensity. He recognizes that emotions often mask underlying concerns, and instead of reacting defensively, he seeks to understand, clarify, and engage in meaningful dialogue. He does not seek to win arguments or prove a point, but to create trust and emotional security. By living according to Stoic principles, a man becomes an emotional anchor in his relationships, a source of steadiness and strength. He remains patient in moments of difficulty, recognizing that conflict and emotional turbulence are temporary and manageable when approached with wisdom. He does not allow himself to be emotionally manipulated, yet he provides support and empathy where needed. He respects the differences between men's and women's emotional processing, accepting these differences as natural rather than resisting them. His presence is one of stability, fostering an environment where mutual understanding and respect thrive. Despite common misconceptions, Stoicism is not about cold detachment or emotional suppression. True Stoicism embraces emotional intelligence, self-mastery, and compassionate engagement with others. It enhances relationships by encouraging patience, rational communication, and emotional resilience. A Stoic man accepts emotions. He simply refuses to be controlled by them. He does not distance himself from love and connection. He strengthens them by approaching them with wisdom and intentionality. By integrating Stoic philosophy into daily interactions, men can build stronger, more fulfilling relationships with the women in their lives. They learn to control their reactions, to listen with genuine understanding, and to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. They become emotionally grounded, offering a presence that is reliable and reassuring. They foster a dynamic of mutual respect, where emotional differences are not sources of conflict, but opportunities for deeper connection. What do you think? Have you applied Stoic principles in your relationships? Share your experiences in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights into Stoicism, relationships, and personal growth.